As you learn about the narcissistic pattern, it's also wise to reflect on the much healthier alternatives. Now, below you're going to find a link to my new extensive course called Ready, Set, Connect. It addresses both the mindset and the skills involved in gratifying relationships, and I hope you'll find it to be quite therapeutic. One of the great frustrations that you can have when you have an ongoing relationship with a narcissist is the person that you deal with one-on-one, when it's you and the narcissist, can be greatly divergent from that person in public, okay? And particularly if that person's in public and they're wanting something from someone else or they're hoping to gain some form of favor, it's like, all right, I know what I know about you, and what other people think they know about you isn't anywhere close to what I see behind the scenes. And it all illustrates that narcissists are the consummate posers, and to the point where it becomes a skill set to them, like it's a game. Give you an example. Let's suppose that you have a family relative, and it's from behind the scenes for years and years, this person is very dishonest. They're extremely critical and of other individuals. They have a mean streak. And then you see them in public, and people are talking to you about how nice they are and how friendly they are, and they're over there glad-handing with all sorts of people. It's like, oh, if you only knew what I know from behind the scenes. Or it could be that there's someone that you work with, and when you're privately engaging with this person, they're uncooperative and dismissive and can barely give you any kind of acknowledgement whatsoever. But then someone else comes along and suddenly they cheer up and they're much more friendly and engaging and seemingly to be the kind of person that everybody would want to work with. And you're thinking, this isn't what I see over here behind the scenes. Or I've had cases where someone has died, and then that narcissistic person can publicly portray the thought that says, oh, I'm so heartbroken and I'm so sick. And then you can be over there thinking, you told me how much you hate them. And you said nothing but bad things about them for years, and now you're out there trying to garner some sort of encouragement from people by letting them know how badly you feel. No, you don't. Just be honest about it. And when we talk about posers, we're talking about people who, when there's someone in front of them that they feel can somehow give them favor, they're going to just figure out what it is that person wants or needs to know about them. And they're just going to be whatever they have to be in the moment to get whatever it is they're looking at the moment. You believe in this? Hey, so do I. You feel this way? Yeah, me too. And you're thinking, that's not at all consistent with what I know. Now, let's keep in mind that this is actually its own form of gaslighting. You're being gaslit by the narcissist, and keep in mind that gaslighting is trying to keep you in a state of confusion, and they're trying to make you out to be the one that just doesn't understand reality. But I'm hoping that you can see this as honestly as you can for what it is. Let's keep in mind that when narcissists go into this posturing and posing with one another, basically, there are all sorts of thoughts that go on that have already that the narcissist has already bought into behind the scenes. For example, they've already concluded to themselves there are certain people in this world that I have to find favor with. In other words, people are on a pecking order, and apparently you're not very high on that pecking order, and so they try to figure out who's on the high end of that pecking order, who's the desirable person, and then who's not. And then they also have concluded that there is no way that people are going to get to know my flaws and imperfections, unless, of course, it can work to my advantage. I had this difficulty, but I overcame it. And so they're not going to let people know how they struggle or what kind of real difficulties they have. It's all about trying to make themselves look good in the moment. The narcissist has concluded that relationships are all about finding favor. Relationships are simply a game, and you're trying to score points constantly when you're with certain people. But then ultimately, one of the primary reasons that narcissists go heavily into this posing mindset, it illustrates that a long time ago they decided, or they realized, this world is full of would-be judges. And they want to minimize the potential of being judged improperly. And so they're constantly trying to figure out, how can I game people into thinking that I should get high scores and they should think very well of me? And then what kind of things do I have to be very careful of so that I don't get judged? And then they compartmentalize who they'll talk to and what they'll speak about. They decided a long time ago, and of course this is very much on a subconscious level by now, being authentic could get me in a lot of trouble. So you're not going to get authenticity from now. And if I can hide my potential negatives, but then at the same time learn about your negatives, that gives me a heads up. I win. The narcissist has been wearing the mask for so long that in their minds it's like, well, it would create too many problems now if I took that mask off, so I'm just going to keep it on and I'm going to try to keep this game going as long as possible. There are many ways or tactics that these posers can use to keep this game going. First, we can say that they will point blank deny whatever problems that might be there. You see the problems, but they'll just say, no, I didn't do that, or that's not me. Or if they don't deny certain problems, they're very adroit at doing the quick attention shifting elsewhere. And it might be they'll say, if you call them out on a particular problem, it's like, have you noticed that this person over here, they've got it twice as bad as me, and somehow by pointing out somebody else's negatives, that gets them off the hook. They can change the topic. For example, if there's a possibility that they're going to be found out for being flawed or just human, it's like, why don't we talk about the weather over in China? Or why don't we talk about what we're going to have for dinner or whatever? And they'll just kind of play this kind of topic dodgeball, if you will. They lie easily and they keep secrets commonly. They'll tell half-truths. Yeah, I did make this mistake, but then it's not as what you think, and they minimize and they don't really go into the real full details. They can greatly exaggerate their own positives. That's one of the things that these posers will do. For example, this one illustration. For years, I worked with a service project, and there was this one guy who showed up one time on this service project and didn't do much. But then later on, I found out through the grapevine that he kept talking about how, I'm very heavily involved with this particular nonprofit over here. And this is something that's dear to my heart. And I'm thinking, I was there. And you showed up one time and you didn't do much, but now he's out there just kind of showing himself to say, you want to know something positive about me? I love humanity and I'm such a magnanimous person. It's like, don't play that kind of game. But they like to exaggerate anything that might be good because in their mind, other folks don't really know. They like to collect people that they consider to be desirable. And again, you're not on that list, are you? The highly desirable person. And they like to sidle up next to people that might get them somewhere good. Oh, you're accomplished? Well, then I want you to be my buddy. Sometimes, as part of their posing, they'll play the emotional game. For example, they might tug at you in an emotional way. And they may say something like, I can really tell that this is something that's a concern for you. Tell me more about that. And they can seem to be totally interested in other individuals. It's just part of the game. Or it could be that they'll elicit sympathy. It's a different way of trying to tug on the emotional card. It's like, well, I had some real difficulties growing up. And so if you do notice anything negative about me, it's not me, it's the difficulties. But then they try to soften the blow just in case somebody's going to find out something about them. And so they want to tug at your emotional strings one or the other. They have so many different ways. And when you say, can you just take the mask off? It's like, no. And then to take it a little bit further, when you do try to call them out on their posing, you'll tend to get one of three, probably more, reactions. One is you can get a really strong disproportional defense reaction. They can go into a high justification mode. Let me explain to you why I am the way I am and you just don't understand me. Or maybe they'll just disappear or they'll become evasive, but they're absolutely not able to take any kind of input, nor do they want to talk things out. Another way what happens when you try to call them out is they'll go into blame shifting. If there's a problem that you think you see about me, it's your fault or it's that person's fault or, it's the weather or whatever they might want to come up with. And then in addition, part of the response when you try to call them out is they'll just throw some really venomous anger at you. Now, again, publicly, they don't want people to know about that, but they can be very angry very easily behind the scenes with you. Now, in the midst of all of this, you realize that poser is holding you in contempt. They don't like you because you see difficulties in their life. And so it's like they somehow dislike you because you just know too much. But actually the people that they're giving the posing toward, they're holding them in contempt too. It's kind of their way of thinking, I hope that you're dumb enough to be gullible and believe everything I want to dish out at you. And so it's not like this is something that's a compliment to the people that they're posing to. The narcissists have a long, extended habit of just living a charade. In fact, so much so that they wind up being trapped by their own narrative. And the further they go trying to present themselves as someone that they're not, then it's like, now I've got to live up to that. And so they have to keep it going. This whole image game that they're playing is it's all they know. They've been running away from shame and guilt and humiliation all of their lives. And your efforts to try to make them stop are not likely to happen, at least not today. Now, you see, my reaction to that poser narcissist would be an invitation, and that is, hey, you know what? I'm very willing to engage with you without the mask on. You don't have to do that with me, and I don't want to have to do that with you. Can we give that a go? But part of the definition of narcissism is their tight need for control and their self-absorption and entitlement, and so that invitation would scare them to death. So that being the case, when you see somebody who's in that perpetual poser mode, just recognize you can't have any kind of depth with them whatsoever because that's built into the equation. You'll need to factor that in. Now, I hope that videos such as this can give you some good insight regarding what you're dealing with when you're engaging with that narcissist. If you've not already hit the subscribe button, obviously I would encourage you to do so. Hit the like button too, because that helps us on the algorithm section, But we would like to keep more videos coming in your direction. I do appreciate you allowing me to be a part of your growth journey. In addition, it might be that you would have a need to sift this out with someone who could help you in a therapeutic way. I'm so pleased to be sponsored by the people at BetterHelp.com. They have a whole team of licensed professional therapists, and right now, online therapy is so popular and it's affordable. There's a link below that can take you to that. I would strongly encourage you to seek that out if the need is there. In addition, we have my therapeutic courses, and within each course, there are multiple videos with written documents and guided questions. I mean, like a whole lot. It's like enrolling for a class, but they would have a very strong therapeutic bent for you there. Ready, Set, Connect, about having good connection skills. This is me about establishing boundaries. Free to Be about finding yourself despite the controllers. I've had a lot of good feedback from people that have taken those courses. In addition, we have my podcast, we have our my books, and our website with many articles, lots of resources. Okay, narcissists are posers, and you can see it for what it is. You're not likely to be the one that's going to break it down, but I hope that once you see it, you can decide, I'm pulling back. I'm going into the direction of authenticity, because you see, my ultimate goal is I want to be a person of peace.